alien mummies, crashed crafts, secret interviews after this, you'll never doubt they're real. If you think the idea of aliens visiting Earth is something that only belongs in movies like Arrival or Men in Black, think again. Thousands of years before flying saucers hit the headlines, ancient Sumerians living in what's now modern-day Iraq were already creating images that look eerily familiar. Among their most curious artifacts are small statues, crafted with stunning detail that seem to show beings with large, slanted eyes, elongated heads, and thin, almost frail bodies. Sound familiar? They look almost exactly like the grays that pop up again and again in modern UFO reports. These figurines aren't random either. They were found buried with care, suggesting they had some sacred or vital role in Sumerian society. Some scholars suggest they represented gods, but the strange features just don't match any known human form. What's even more chilling, some of the oldest written records we have, the cuneiform tablets from Sumer, describe powerful beings called the Anunnaki, said to have descended from the heavens to influence humanity. Some conspiracy theorists argue that these weren't gods in the mythological sense, but actual visitors from another planet. According to these theories, the Anunnaki didn't just appear, they engineered parts of early human civilization, teaching farming, architecture, and law. This idea might sound wild, but the strange precision and advanced themes found in Sumerian culture have puzzled historians for decades. How did a civilization over 6,000 years ago leap from primitive farming to complex cities with sewage systems and astronomical knowledge? It's a question that still doesn't have a clear answer. Could contact with something or someone not of this world have given them the boost? The desert town of Socorro, New Mexico isn't the first place you'd expect something extraordinary to happen. But in 1964, it became one of the most famous sites for a close encounter of the second kind. Lonnie Zamora, a local police officer, was chasing a speeding car when he saw a flash in the sky. He turned off the highway and followed the glint to a rocky gully, where he stumbled upon something straight out of science fiction. In front of him was a metallic egg-shaped craft, resting on legs with two small figures nearby in white suits. Before he could get closer, the craft lifted off silently and vanished into the sky. What makes Zamora's sighting stand out is not just his reputation. He was known as a serious, no-nonsense cop, but also the physical evidence left behind. Investigators found scorched bushes, crushed rocks, and landing marks precisely where Zamora described. Even government investigators couldn't easily dismiss it. Some officials tried to write it off as a hoax or a secret military project, but none of those explanations really fit. The burn patterns and impressions weren't consistent with any known aircraft of the time. The Socorro incident still sits at the top of Project Blue Book's list of unexplained cases. It makes you wonder if beings from somewhere else really are visiting Earth. Sometimes they might not just appear in the sky, they might land right in front of us. And speaking of things not meant for public eyes, few pieces of so-called leaked footage have stirred the imagination quite like the next case. Some footage is so strange it sticks in your mind even after you turn off the screen. The Victor footage is one of those things. In the late 1990s, a shadowy figure known only as Victor claimed to have smuggled a tape out of Area 51, America's most secretive military base. The grainy video showed what appeared to be an interrogation of a real alien. Thin body, oversized head, dark almond-shaped eyes, sitting behind a glass partition under dim lights. What makes the video even more unsettling is the alien's behavior. It twitches, gasps, and seems visibly distressed, almost as if it's struggling to breathe. Meanwhile, human voices off-screen can be heard giving commands and requesting medical intervention. Many researchers have tried to debunk the footage, calling it a hoax, a puppet, a clever special effect. But no one has definitively proven where it came from or how it was made. Victor claimed the being was captured during an encounter at a classified crash site. Whether that's true or not, the tape has an eerie authenticity that Hollywood horror can't quite replicate. Even today, it's hard to watch without feeling like you're peeking into something you were never supposed to see. If this was fake, why hasn't anyone recreated it convincingly in the decades since? And if it's real, it raises a far bigger question. How long have we been hiding contact with beings from beyond? In 1975, the forests of Arizona became the backdrop for one of the most controversial and, honestly, chilling alien encounters ever reported. Travis Walton, a logger working near Snowflake, and his crew had just finished a long day cutting trees. As they drove home in their truck, they spotted a strange glow ahead. It wasn't a forest fire or headlights. It was something hovering silently above the clearing. Travis, curious and fearless, stepped out to get a closer look. Before the others could react, a beam of blue-green light shot out from the craft, lifting Travis off the ground and throwing him backward. Terrified, his co-workers fled. When they returned minutes later, Travis was gone. An intense search followed, but there was no sign of him. Then, after 5 long days, Travis reappeared at a gas station, disoriented and with no memory of the missing time. Slowly, through hypnotic regression, fragments of his experience surfaced: small beings, bright lights, cold metallic rooms. Skeptics tried to pin the event on hallucinations or an elaborate hoax, but multiple lie detector tests and consistent testimonies from the entire crew have kept this case in the spotlight. Even decades later, no one has fully explained what happened to Travis. His story was later adapted into the movie Fire in the Sky, but the real account is far more unsettling than Hollywood ever captured. If Travis is telling the truth, it suggests that abductions are not random. They might be part of a larger plan we barely understand. And while Travis's story shook a small town, another eerie encounter had already unfolded decades earlier, this time near the waters of Washington State. Long before the Roswell headlines splashed across newspapers, the Mory Island incident quietly marked what could be the first recorded UFO crash in United States history. In June 1947, Harold Dahl was out on Puget Sound near Mory Island when he spotted 6 giant, donut-shaped objects hovering overhead. Suddenly, one craft appeared to malfunction, dropping molten debris into the water and onto Dahl's boat, injuring his son and killing their dog. Dahl reported the event to his supervisor, and soon after, 2 shadowy men in dark suits visited him. They warned him not to talk about what he had seen, a chilling early example of what later became known as the Men in Black. Skeptics have tried to paint the incident as a hoax, but several FBI documents confirm that the case was taken seriously enough to warrant a full investigation. The molten fragments were real, and the descriptions Dahl gave of the crafts matched what others would claim to see just weeks later in the now famous Kenneth Arnold sighting. Mory Island often gets brushed aside because it happened so close to Roswell's media explosion, but its details are just as compelling, if not more so. If these objects really were extraterrestrial, it means that government officials were already aware of them before the term flying saucer even entered the public vocabulary. What exactly crashed into the sound that day remains unanswered, but the threat that followed, silent, shadowy, and intimidating, suggests someone wanted to bury the truth fast. Not every visitor, though, crashes and burns. Some just pass through, almost like a whisper across the cosmos. That brings us to a traveler unlike anything humanity had ever seen. In 2017, astronomers at a Hawaiian observatory spotted something incredible, an object hurtling through our solar system at 196,000 miles per hour. It wasn't following the path of any known comet or asteroid. This was Umam Mua, the first confirmed interstellar object ever detected, and it behaved strangely. Shaped like a long, narrow cigar, it tumbled erratically, sped up without a visible cause, and reflected sunlight in ways scientists couldn't easily explain. Initial theories labeled it as a natural rock, maybe a shard from a distant cosmic collision. But not everyone agreed. Dr. Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist, proposed a bold idea. What if Umam Mua was an artificial object? Maybe a derelict spacecraft or a probe from a distant civilization? After all, its sudden acceleration without a visible gas trail didn't match anything natural we've ever observed. It was like someone or something was steering it. The mainstream scientific community pushed back, but even they couldn't fully explain the object's unusual behavior. No telescope managed to snap a clear picture before it disappeared back into deep space, leaving us with nothing but data and guesses. Some say it was just a rock behaving oddly. Others wonder if it was a lost message in a bottle from an intelligent race beyond our reach. One thing is clear: if Umam Mua was a visitor, it slipped past us quietly, offering just the briefest hint that we are not alone. So, back in 2017, a discovery near Nazca, Peru, sent shockwaves through both the archaeological and UFO communities. Researchers revealed what they claimed were mummified bodies, small humanoid figures with these elongated skulls, and, get this, only 3 fingers on each hand and foot. These weren't just ancient human remains altered by nature, nope. CT scans, X-rays, and DNA tests showed something much stranger. Internal organs were intact, and the bones were structured in a way never seen in known species. Now, skeptics rushed to call it a hoax, but teams of doctors and scientists who examined the bodies argued otherwise. The most famous of the mummies, nicknamed Maria, measured just under 5 feet tall and had features that didn't match human anatomy. Carbon dating placed the remains at over 1,700 years old way before modern tampering could explain it away. Even the Peruvian government launched an investigation into the findings, treating the case seriously instead of just dismissing it outright. Were these beings visitors who crash-landed centuries ago, mistaken for gods by ancient people? The desert of Nazca is famous for its mysterious lines, massive geoglyphs only fully visible from the sky. Maybe those giant drawings weren't for human eyes at all. Maybe they were a landing guide visible only from above. And speaking of strange objects that don't seem to fit any logical explanation, another case closer to home left even scientists scratching their heads. In 1974, a family in Jacksonville, Florida, stumbled upon something that would puzzle experts for decades. While surveying damage from a wildfire, the Betts family found a shiny, metallic sphere, perfectly smooth and about the size of a bowling ball. Curious, they brought it home, and that's when things got weird. The sphere would roll on its own, seemingly defying gravity. It reacted to music, moving and vibrating as if alive. Scientists from the US Navy, engineers, and even researchers from NASA studied the sphere. Their findings? The object contained multiple internal magnetic poles and responded to external energy sources in ways that didn't match any known technology. It wasn't a simple piece of scrap metal, yet no one could explain where it came from or who made it. Theories ranged from lost military tech to something much more exotic, an alien probe accidentally left behind. Even decades later, the Betts sphere remains a mystery. Some say it vanished during further government testing. If it was truly alien, it could have been the first physical evidence of visitors we still barely understand, hiding in plain sight inside a suburban home. And if strange objects could turn up on our doorstep, what secrets were being kept behind closed doors during the Cold War? Most people know about Area 51 and Roswell, but few realize that the Soviet Union might have had its own alien encounters, hidden deep in classified archives. In the 1990s, footage surfaced claiming to show a secret KGB operation, an autopsy on a humanoid being recovered from a crash site in Sverdlovsk, Russia, in 1969. The black and white film shows military officers in full hazmat suits performing a detailed examination on a small, non-human body. Unlike Hollywood special effects, the body looked disturbingly real, fragile limbs, large head, and anatomy that didn't fit any known creature on Earth. The film also shows the crash wreckage, a disc-shaped craft half buried in the ground, surrounded by debris and soldiers. Whether the footage is authentic or an elaborate deception remains a heated debate, but experts analyzing the materials noted details that would be hard for amateurs to fake at the time. The Cold War was a time of intense secrecy, and if extraterrestrial technology really crashed behind the Iron Curtain, it's no wonder it stayed hidden for decades. Some theorists even believe both US and Soviet officials made secret agreements to keep alien encounters quiet, fearing the societal shock that disclosure could bring. If that's true, what else might still be sitting in old archives, waiting to be uncovered? And sometimes proof doesn't come in dusty reels of film sometimes, it's captured by ordinary people with nothing more than a camera. So, back in 1990, 2 hikers near Calvine, Scotland, spotted something extraordinary in the sky, a massive, diamond-shaped craft just hovering silently above the landscape. Acting quickly, they snapped a photo, and that picture would eventually be called the clearest UFO photograph ever captured. The image shows not just the strange object, but also a jet fighter nearby, almost like it was escorting, or maybe even investigating this unknown visitor. For years, the photo disappeared into classified government archives under Britain's Ministry of Defense. Later on, whistleblowers revealed that officials were honestly stunned by the clarity and sheer size of the object. Some witnesses even said it measured up to 100 feet across. Despite some pretty intense investigation, no earthly explanation ever surfaced. It wasn't a weather balloon. It wasn't secret military technology. It was something else. When the photo finally got declassified decades later, it reignited debate all around the world. I mean, why suppress a simple photograph if it was harmless? Why scramble jets if it was just a misidentified object? Those questions hint at a bigger picture, one where governments might be a lot more involved in extraterrestrial encounters than they'd like to admit. The Calvine photo remains a silent, powerful reminder that sometimes the proof is right there, hiding in plain sight. In December 1980, a quiet patch of woods in Suffolk, England, became the site of one of the most credible UFO encounters in history. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge reported seeing these strange lights just descending into Reynoldsham Forest. Thinking it might be a crashed aircraft, they went to check it out. What they found, though, was something no amount of training could have prepared them for. Multiple witnesses described a metallic craft, about the size of a small car, resting on 3 legs. The surface was smooth, almost fluid-looking, and covered in strange symbols. Nothing like any language they knew. As they got closer, the object started to glow and then lifted silently into the air, weaving through the trees with this impossible agility. Over the next few nights, even more personnel reported lights and bizarre movements, with some claiming beams were sent down toward the base. One officer, Sergeant Jim Peniston, even says he touched the craft and later wrote down a string of binary code he claims was transmitted straight into his mind. Decades later, computer experts who decoded it found coordinates pointing to ancient sites all around the globe. If Reynoldsham was just a mistake or some trick of the light, why were seasoned military men willing to risk their careers by standing by their stories? And what kind of intelligence would communicate in binary, a universal language? And, when it comes to mysterious messages, Earth's open fields have sometimes turned into vast chalkboards for the unknown. For decades, crop circles were brushed off as human-made pranks. But then the patterns started getting way more complex, just too precise, too mathematically perfect to be the work of a handful of people with planks and rope. Some of the most intricate formations show up overnight in fields stretching over hundreds of feet with no signs of entry, no footprints, and really no logical way to create them without heavy machinery or aerial guidance. Among these, a few particular designs stand out circles with clear alien-like symbols embedded within them. In 2001, a formation appeared in a field near Chilbolton, England, showing what looked like a reply to the famous Arecibo message humanity had sent into space decades earlier. Alongside the crop pattern was the image of a gray alien face. The detail was staggering, almost photographic. Skeptics say it's just too good to be real, but then, explain how such vast, undisturbed artwork can just materialize overnight without anyone seeing a thing. Scientists who studied the stalks found they were bent, not broken, almost like they'd been subjected to intense heat for just a few seconds. Something traditional tools can't really achieve. Are these warnings, greetings, or maybe just reminders that we're not alone? If someone or something is trying to reach us, they're doing it in ways that totally bypass language, speaking straight to the imagination. And speaking of undeniable encounters, sometimes the most irrefutable evidence comes not from fields, but from military cameras locked onto something no human technology can explain. Back in 2004 off the coast of California, seasoned Navy pilots from the USS Nimitz encountered something that, honestly, changed the way the military talks about UFOs forever. This was the so-called Tic Tac incident, and it involved a smooth, white, capsule-shaped object darting through the sky, accelerating, turning, and dropping thousands of feet in seconds, all without any visible propulsion system. Commander David Fravor, one of the pilots, described the object's movements as, otherworldly. The Tic Tac craft would mirror the pilot's maneuvers, then just zoom away at speeds that made even the fastest jets look sluggish. Radar operators aboard the Navy ships confirmed the sightings, tracking the object as it moved with intelligence and purpose. Footage of the incident was later declassified and officially acknowledged by the Pentagon, marking one of the first times the US government admitted to encountering unidentified aerial phenomena they simply couldn't explain. It wasn't just blurry footage or eyewitness testimony anymore, it was military-grade tracking, pilot video, and radar data, all pointing to one unsettling fact. Whatever the Tic Tac was, it wasn't ours. And if such technology is flying freely in our skies, the real question isn't whether aliens exist. It's how long they've been watching us, silently, just beyond the limits of what we think we understand. March 13, 1997, started as an ordinary night in Arizona until, it wasn't. As dusk settled, thousands of people across Phoenix and nearby cities looked up and saw a sight that would become one of the most famous mass UFO sightings in American history. A massive, silent craft shaped like a giant V floated overhead. Some witnesses said it was larger than a football field, maybe even a mile wide. It blocked out the stars as it glided slowly, completely silent. Calls flooded into police stations. Witnesses included everyone from teenagers to retired military personnel. Some reported seeing individual lights arranged in a distinct pattern. Others claimed they could see the solid structure connecting them. The government initially blamed it on military flares dropped during exercises, but honestly, anyone who was there will tell you, flares don't fly in formation for hours or move against the wind. Governor Fife Symington even held a press conference jokingly, presenting an aide in an alien costume, but years later, he admitted he too had seen the enormous craft and believed it was not from this world. The Phoenix Lights weren't just a trick of the mind or misidentified aircraft. They were witnessed by thousands of people over several hours, leaving behind a mystery that no official story has managed to fully explain. If visitors are reaching out, sometimes they're not even trying to hide. And sometimes the encounters aren't just lights in the sky, sometimes they walk among us. In January 1996, the small city of Varginha, Brazil, became the center of one of the most compelling UFO stories ever recorded. Locals reported seeing a strange, cigar-shaped craft moving erratically across the sky before crashing somewhere near the town. What followed was even stranger. Witnesses described military trucks racing through the streets, roadblocks set up overnight, and, most shockingly, face-to-face encounters with non-human beings. 3 young girls claimed they stumbled across a creature crouched against a wall, small, thin, with leathery brown skin and massive red eyes that seemed almost desperate. More residents came forward describing similar sightings. Even local firefighters were allegedly called in to capture one of the beings alive. Hospitals were suddenly placed under military control, and tight-lipped officials brushed off questions with hurried denials. Over the years, leaked documents, deathbed confessions, and persistent eyewitnesses have kept the story alive. Some former officials now hint that something truly unexplainable was recovered that night. Maybe it wasn't just a craft that fell from the sky, maybe something inside survived. If Varginha taught us anything, it's that some encounters aren't glimpses through a telescope or lights flickering overhead. Sometimes, visitors from beyond come crashing straight into our world and leave footprints behind. That's about it. So, do you believe in aliens now? Go ahead and write in the comments. And for more useful information, don't forget to check out our other videos.